Welcome back to Seasons. I hope you've enjoyed this one. I've enjoyed studying the seasons, writing about the seasons, and we've got all these different areas of life and seasons of life, and it can almost get to be a little much, can't it? But as we've learned, there's a season for everything. And today we get to talk about spring. And spring is birth, life, hope, renewal, refreshness, happiness. Oh gosh, amorous, giddy. Metaphorically speaking, spring would be like birth to 25 years old, right? But when we keep going back to the seasons and what they mean, spring is quite the one to hang out in, okay? Spring is hope and new beginnings and opportunity. So for many of you, maybe you've been in your personal life in a winter, but maybe now you're coming to a new season, and maybe you're new here, or you're trying to renew your commitment to health and to growing, and so it's your spring. I give the analogy often of day one mentality. It's first day mentality. Every day is first day. This is the first day I'm going to do these mundane things that I know in the end will get me where I need to be, where I want to be, where I envision myself being. And the spring can be a springboard to that, because it is a time for new beginnings. It's a time for transformation. It's a time for you to decide what you're going to plant, how you're going to plant. I talked about in the winter, when it's dark and dreary and a lonely time, that's when we journal and write, and that's when we work through our feelings. I have many clients now who work with therapists, and, to work through their feelings, okay? Not your friends need to hear it all the time. But spring is about that blossoming of whatever you went through in the winter. Whatever that dark season was, using that to start to plan, using that for the trying to feel hopeful, and then here you are. Spring is hope. The whole theme of spring is hope. Because it's a time to start fresh. It's a time to start over. It symbolizes new life. It also symbolizes love and joy and youthfulness. It is, most importantly, that hard winter with the snow and the ice, and here comes the spring, and we're breaking through that ice or that snow. And those of you guys that live in parts of the country that you witness that, I've witnessed it in my travels, but I live in the South, so it's not quite the same as watching that weed or that plant, whatever it is, push itself up through that ice and snow and search for the sun. And that is what the spring is. It's a time of rebirth, renewal, awakening. I feel very much like I'm in the spring of my life. One poet describes it as pretty, short, and sweet. Spring is pretty, short, and sweet. I want to live my life in spring. Now, I guess, in one way, metaphorically speaking, I'm in the fall, the fall of life. Those later years for most people, in your 50s and 60s and 70s, that's considered the autumn or the fall of your life. That's considered one of the most difficult times of a person's life. But it's also that time, and we'll talk about it when we get to fall, but it's also that time you reap a lot of what you've protected over the summer and what you planted in the spring. If you want to plant health for yourself, and you can be listening to this any time of year. I'm recording it in the fall, okay? I'm recording it in the fall, and I'm looking forward to the springtime. That's 6 months. That's 6 months of planting. 6 months of planting. I'm already thinking about in the fall planting what I could get in the spring, because I always want to live in springtime. I always want it to be my happy time. I always want it to be that giddy, fun, hopeful awakening. Don't you? Don't you want to reclaim that 25-year-old spring of your life youth and pour the wisdom of a 40, 50, 60, 70-year-old woman who has been through life? If you can take that wisdom and you can look now at weight loss and your body and obesity and where it really fits in the vastness of all of your seasons, all of your life, all of your relationships, all of your career. Go to the beach and stand and look at the sand. We are not even less than a grain of sand. We're likened to that, a grain of sand. And within that grain of sand that we are here in the vastness of the world, that obesity, I love food, I'm addicted, I can't put it down, is so small. To the trials and tribulations around us that go on, the homelessness and the cancer and the mental health and the COVID and the loss of life, the loss of relationships, the loss of families who've lost their way. The spring is our time. The spring, live in the spring. Your body may say you're headed into the fall, lady, but your heart can be in the spring. And that is hope. That's taking the plans. And if you haven't done that in winter because it was too tough, maybe winter was too tough to make those plans. So now you got to do double duty in spring. Okay? So now maybe you have to make plans and put them into place and plant. Make the plans and plant right now, because you miss the spring, maybe even the summer, which traditionally, metaphorically speaking, is the best year. The best years of our life are 40 to 60s, they say, 40 to 50, 30 to 40. But I considered that a difficult time of life too. But it was awesome, wonderful, raising children, having your first grandchildren. That's the beauty of the summer. You know, you've worked so hard to protect it. The beauty of the fall for many of us is we've worked hard, and we can look back on our life and we see the rewards in our kids and grandkids. But we've got to live like it's spring. We've got to treat every relationship like it's spring. We have to go into that love relationship, our kids' relationships. Every day is spring. Every day's first day. I can't be mad at you about yesterday. I can't be ticked off about with my cousin's sister's wife because what she said about me. No. Every day's day one. Everybody gets a fresh start, including you. I don't know if it's in your wheelhouse to live this way, but I can tell you it changed my life. And again, I can only share my journey, and then I sometimes take what I've experienced it, and then I study it, and it makes sense. It's like, wow. And then sometimes I study it, and then I live it, and then I go, wow. Sometimes I read a study that was done years ago that I had no idea was out there, but I am living it. The change, the transformation, the reversing your life from being in a wheelchair, insulin resistant, diabetic, self-loathing. I turned that around. I can't do that in a traditional 90-day spring season. But if I treat every day like it's spring, every day is day one, every day with hope, every area of my life, my faith My faith as it's day one and it's new, and my relationship, it's day one and it's new. I can live in the spring that way. Day one in your health. Go back to that day you were so disgusted you found me and you said, maybe it's the last hope. Maybe you've been here 3 years and you still feel that way. Then you're not applying the lessons. Because there's enough lessons here on grace and on how to meet yourself where you are, but how to also start to buckle down to get to where you want to be. It requires discipline. The summer's about discipline. You enjoy the spring because you're planting. But you've got to protect what you're planting. You got to have a plan for where you're going in all areas of your life. And then you're going to have a plan for the obstacles that come your way. I hope you enjoy the spring. I'll see you in the summer.